Welcome to Let's Write This Movie. I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I am Brian Glass.
On today's show, I make up a new word, and I teach Brian the proper techniques of swaddling a watermelon.
And I brace Renee for the most difficult show to date.
Now, let's write this movie. So, Brian, how was the week?
Renee, my week was fantastic. How was your week?
My week was very busy, actually. Busy and discombobulating. I got a stay of execution, I guess, a little bit of a reprieve from one of my side businesses. So I had extra time to work on the script, but then another side business opportunity popped up, and I was working on that, but that didn't pan out. So kind of like broke even there. And I was so my mind was just split across all of these different things that when I saved the pages, okay, so very briefly, on Final Draft, you can turn your script into a PDF, and you can just save it as a PDF, but you can't specify what pages. What you can do is you can print to PDF and specify the pages, and that's what I normally do. But because I wasn't thinking, and I just want to get these pages out to you, I just saved it as a PDF, put it on a website, so it ended up being the entire script as it is, which I don't necessarily have a problem with.
Yeah.
It's just not what we've been doing. In fact, what I would like to do is actually have a place where people can read the entire script as it is, and they can just always go back to that every week to see how the script all flows together.
Right.
Which I think would be a nice touch.
Yeah.
So that's problem one. And then problem two is I completely neglected to incorporate your changes from last week into the script. So I was like, oh, but wait, I remember Brian saying that there were just nitpicky stuff, so I don't feel so bad. And I was reading the notes, and I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, I think you were right in characterizing it that way. They were cosmetic changes, and it's like a coin toss for me whether or not I'm going to keep your changes, or rather keep what I wrote or make your changes on those. And I think if I had to just off the top of my head count how many times I used one of your cosmetic changes, I'd say it was about 50-50 as well. Now, with that said, because I had gone and made your changes, I was reading and I was just caught up in the script and thinking oh, you know what? I need to make these other changes earlier because, Bud and Bill, who if you aren't reading the website, everybody, I named the Prospectors Bud and Bill. I kind of want to make their relationship a little more friendly so that we can see the big change after they start getting infected by whatever is infecting them. So I changed a little bit of their dialogue to make them be a little more we're going to get through this, Bud. I believe in you, Bill. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that pushed the pages down. And so I was like, damn it, Brian's not going to have the new thing. So anyway, Brian and I had to coordinate, and hopefully the reading goes well, despite all of my these new obstacles I'm just throwing into the mix.
Oh, it's keeping it interesting, right? Who needs the same thing every week in, week out?
Who needs a process you can count on? Let's just have chaos.
Well, it's funny because when you send that over, I'm like, well, am I supposed to read from page 1 again? I mean, I can if he wants me to, but if it's going to be non-value added, I'd rather just read the new stuff.
Yeah.
And so what I did is I started looking for some of the things that, you know, we had talked about. And I'm like, well, he didn't do that one. Well, he didn't do that one. Okay, so he must not be agreeing with a lot of things that we talked about. I thought during the show he seemed like he was open to some of these things, and so I was not aware that there were several different versions going on.
Yeah,
and then I thought, well, I'll just look at the new stuff and we'll talk about this during our next show. And so I made all my notes on this version here, which is the original one that was sent to me. Because when you sent me the new one, which we're going to be reading today, I had already done all my work.
Yeah.
So what that means is when we read, it should go smoothly because I'll just read off the screen. But when we're looking at notes and I'm referring to a page, it might be a little bit trickier. So sorry about that. It's going to be a little bit tricky to find. Yeah, at the bottom-ish of this page, you should see these people talking. It may not be where I'm talking about. So just so I don't sound like an idiot as I'm trying to give you my notes later.
And that's fine. I'm right now I'm just stuck on whether or not I am agreeing on the videos and then not making the changes. I don't know that that's the case. I think we'd have to look at this point by point to really see what I say. Yeah, okay, you know, and hey, maybe the case where it sounded good while we were talking about it, and then when I got to the page, I thought, you know what? Why don't I leave it as it is and then come back to it and make Brian's change if later in the movie it doesn't make sense the way I wrote it. Or maybe I just say things to placate you while we're on video. Oh, you know what those girls are doing on the balcony, Brian?
I did see that.
Doing. Hey, I made that change for you. FYI.
I did see that one.
Yeah.
They look for Brian below.
Mm-hmm.
And settle for whoever walks by.
You'll be an extra. Come on.
I want to be one of the women. I'll totally have a handkerchief. Brian, damn it. Great, that's an outtake.
That's too short of an outtake, Brian.
I should just be quiet.
I'm just gonna have it. Just gonna keep it in right here. It's an intake. So, Brian, is there anything else we need to discuss before we jump in?
Well, you had talked about wanting to do old pages first. I don't really have anything to say necessarily about old today.
We have we can talk about the extended long Everett exchange where we have a nice flashback.
I thought we might just read that.
What?
From the stuff you gave me today? Because it's from 37 on, right?
Yes.
So like basically most of 37, actually all of 38 is new.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get back into almost 2 pages of existing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know.
You gonna re-perform this?
Well, I mean, kind of in the context of this, I think it probably makes sense.
Okay.
You added quite a bit. It's not like a few words.
All right, Brian. Let's do it.
Up to you, man.
Let's do it. Let me just get the script up. Here we are. Okay, Brian, where do you want to begin? Jail Sunset?
Yeah.
After you.
All right. Just have to get because I'm reading off the screen for the first time. There we go. Interior jail, sunset. Long wakes, and his eyes shoot open. He screams.
Long, in Cantonese. Bao! I'm here!
He sits up quickly, but pain reminds him to move slowly. Realizing, Long looks up at the cell walls and bars. He checks his wounds and inspects his bandages. He sighs. After a moment, he looks through the bars and into the dark jail. The setting sun has made the shadows impenetrable. Long hugs his knees before speaking to the room.
Long. When my brother Bao was born, our mother wept, but not tears of joy. She could barely feed me after my father had died months before. 5 years later, she followed my father, leaving Bao with me.
He shuts his eyes for a moment and breathes in deeply, steeling himself for painful memories. Insert flashback. Interior, dirty shack, Guangdong province, 30 years earlier. An unkempt woman with dirt on her face and matted hair lies down on a pile of straw in a filthy shack. She has a wet, dirty rag on her forehead. She looks up at a teenage Long who is dressed in rags.
Long, voiceover. Before my mother died, she said to me, in Cantonese, then English, Long. Sorry, let's. I'm trying to manage too many screens here, everybody. Let's try that again. In Cantonese, then English. Look after your little brother. He is your only family now.
Teenage Long falls to his knees as his mother fades away. He buries his face in her bosom. After a few moments, he collects himself and stands. He turns to see a child Bao looking up at him with worried uncertainty.
Long, voiceover. I was 15.
Exterior docks, Guangdong province, 12 years later. Adult Long and teenage Bao carry baskets full of fish from a boat to the fishery. They are still dressed in rags.
Long, voiceover. For years we lived like beggars, working odd jobs where we could find them. We slept little and ate even less.
Long and Bao stop when they see a white businessman standing next to a Chinese man who is reading aloud from an official-looking paper. The businessman grins as a crowd forms.
Long, voiceover. So, when we had the opportunity to come to America for work, I knew we had to take it.
Exterior, large boat, open sea, later. The ship's deck is packed with Chinese men. Long and Bao hang over the side of the ship with the sea air blowing through their hair. They are grinning and laughing, looking forward to their new life.
Long, voiceover. I brought him here for a better life. I didn't know this country would take his life instead.
Back to scene. Interior jail, sunset. The impenetrable darkness is silent for a few moments, and then a match is struck, and the flame dips into a smoking pipe, revealing Everett's face. Then he lights a lantern on the desk where he's sitting. His eyes are cold and hard.
Everett. Yeah, we all lost people. Just ask the four women whose husbands you killed today. I'm sure they have sad stories to tell, too.
Long shakes his head, frustrated at letting himself be vulnerable. He picks himself up and sits on the cell bench.
Long. What now? Everett. Puffs. Now, we wait. Tomorrow, assuming you'll survive the journey, I'll take you back up north to face a judge and jury. He puffs his pipe. And then, I will watch you die. Long. Is my death all you have to live for?
Everett doesn't answer for a long time.
Everett. I live for the law, and the law says you need to pay for what you've done. Long. The law. Your laws never protected me or my brother, or my countrymen who died building your railroads. Where was the law when we were paid 2/3 of what a white man was paid? Where was the law when we were when we were whipped by overseers and shackled when we tried to leave? Where was the law when we went on strike to protest our treatment and the railroad companies stopped feeding us? Finally, after 8 days of starvation, the law came, but not to save us. The sheriff came with his deputies to threaten us if we did not return to work. Your laws never applied to me.
Everett puffs on his pipe for a few moments.
Everett. Whatever injustices you've suffered, that's no excuse for killing men, women, and children. Life isn't fair, and you can't make it fair by taking life. Only the law makes life fair, or as close to it as we can get. And that's why you have to die, to bring some fairness to this life.
The two men stare at each other in silence. Exterior, Doc Murphy's minutes later. Petrov finishes closing up his cart as he concludes some last-minute business with a townsperson. He climbs onto the driver's seat and is about to ride off when Doc Murphy comes out of his office.
Doc Murphy. Go on. Get out of here. Petrov. You should spend less time worrying about me and pay more attention to your wife. Ma'am?
He tips his hat at someone behind Doc Murphy. Doc Murphy turns around to see his wife in the doorway, staring wide-eyed at Petrov. Petrov rides off before Doc Murphy can reply.
Doc Murphy to Claudette. Just what did he mean by that? Claudette.
Claudette is at a loss for words until she sees something over Doc Murphy's shoulder.
Claudette. Oh my, a shooting star. Look. Doc Murphy. Ain't no such thing.
He turns to see a streak across the sky, then another, and another. One streak leaves a long green tail that grows as it travels. It passes low overhead, whistling softly.
Claudette. Kiss me, darling, for good luck. Doc Murphy. Are you crazy, woman? I'm too old for that schoolboy nonsense.
He goes inside. Claudette follows, disappointed. Interior, Prospector stake, continuous. The mine interior looks shoddy with hastily erected support beams and scant lanterns hanging. Rubble is piled up haphazardly. Bud is swinging his pickaxe wildly.
Bud. God damn it. I know we're close. I know it. I can smell it. I can taste it.
Bill shovels the rubble into a wheelbarrow.
Bill, slow down, or you'll be all in.
Bud throws the pickaxe down angrily.
Bud. Maybe if you spent more time working.
His jaw locks and he has to massage it to get it moving.
And less time running your mouth, we might be somewhere.
Bill looks back at him with genuine hurt and worry. He notices Bud's scratch at his dog bite underneath the bandage on his arm. Bill puts more chewing tobacco in his mouth and grabs the wheelbarrow to cart out a pile of rubble. Exterior, Prospector stake moments later. Bill mutters to himself as he dumps the pile. He can hear Bud grunting like an animal inside as he swings. Someone chuckles, drawing Bill's attention. It's Old Man Prophet. He stands 40 feet away on his stake.
Old Man Prophet. Another pile of rubble. I told you that stake was no good. When are you going to take my offer and get on with your lives?
His cart pulls up beside him. He climbs aboard next to one of his men.
Bill. Your offer's no good here, Prophet. Not when it's a fraction of what we paid for this stake. Not when we're about to strike it rich. Old Man Prophet. Don't make me laugh. The only one getting rich around here is me. Go on. Work yourself to death.
He rides away. Bill watches him go and spits. He's about to go back in the mine when he hears a whistling sound. He looks around and then slowly looks up as the environment around him lights up green. A meteorite hurtles down toward him. Bill dives out of the way as the meteorite crashes through the rock face and into the mine, sending rubble and dust exhaling out. Bill collects himself and runs in.
Bill. Bud! Bud!
Interior, Prospector stake, continuous. Bud is buried beneath some light rubble, and Bill runs in to pull him out. Once free, they both stare in awe at the hole in the mine wall and the giant glowing divot beneath them. They peer over the edge to see a green meteorite. For a moment, they just stare until Bill moves toward the meteorite, seemingly mesmerized by its pulsating glow. Bud looks on in fascination. When Bill is close enough, he reaches out to touch the watermelon-sized rock. He lays his entire palm on it and howls in pain as he tries to pull his hand away. He's finally able to and clenches his fist in agony.
Bud. Bill, are you okay?
Bill extends his fingers and sees a sticky green substance on his palm and fingers. It smokes, but then appears to be absorbed into Bill's skin. He grabs at his forearm as if to try to stop the substance from moving up his arm.
Bud. Bill, talk to me.
The look of horror on Bill's face fades away. He snaps his head toward Bud.
Bill. I'm fine. Leave me alone.
Bill's sudden aggression cows Bud, who shrinks back. Bill takes off his shirt and swaddles the meteorite like a baby.
Bill. I'm gonna be rich. Bud, you mean we're gonna be rich? Bill, right. We. Let's put this somewhere safe.
His eyes are aglow in the pulsating green. Exterior, Arizona plains, stream, continuous. The sun has just dipped over the horizon, casting heavy shadows on the uneven desert. Petrov counts his money as he absentmindedly drives his horses. He chuckles to himself. Suddenly, the horses halt. There's a log in the road. Petrov looks at it with puzzlement. He hears movement, but before he can react, Indian bandits leap from their hiding spots and spring their ambush. Riders appear from nowhere and whoop and shout as they surround Petrov. He's trapped.
Petrov. Now, whoa. Wait just a minute. There's no reason to be violent.
The bandit leader separates himself from the others. He steps forward and grabs the petrified Petrov from his seat. The bandit leader draws a mean knife from its sheath.
Petrov. Take whatever you want. I have money. I have liquor. To all. You know, fire water. You like.
He begins pantomiming drinking exaggeratedly. The bandit leader sneers and drives the knife up through Petrov's throat and into his skull. Petrov goes limp instantly and dies. The bandit leader lets him fall and mutters to a fellow bandit. That man springs into action, unhooking the horses and commanding others to help him push the cart off the road. The cart rolls down an embankment and topples over into the stream. Petrov's bottles spill, crashing open into the water. The stream turns into a pastiche of bright colors that mix into a ruddy brown that's swept away by the current. Following it, the water disappears underground. Exterior, epitaph, water pump, continuous. The water comes out of a town water pump and into the bucket of Mortimer Caron, 40, the undertaker, a slow-looking but well-meaning man. He finishes and takes his bucket to leave. He turns and is surprised to see Ms. Stapleton, 20.
Miss Stapleton. Mr. Caron, how's the undertaking business? Mortimer. Please, call me Mortimer. Business has been too good lately, if you know what I mean.
They both look down at the ground for a moment.
Miss Stapleton. Regarding the bucket. Washing up before supper? Mortimer. Oh, this? No, I need to clean up the corpses before service tomorrow. Well, I best get to it. You have a pleasant evening.
Mortimer leaves, and Miss Stapleton begins pumping water into her own bucket. Exterior Sally Saloon, side, continuous. Bill and Bud are arguing over who should carry the meteorite. They stop just outside Sally's on the side where beer kegs are standing. The two men look like they're about to come to blows. Bill spits some tobacco and it lands on a keg. Zeke comes out with an empty keg and surprises the men. They head off together. Zeke exchanges the keg he's holding for the one Bill spat on. The spit is strangely green and has seeped into the wood. Zeke brings the keg inside. Exterior, Sally's saloon, front room. Minutes later, Sally taps the keg and pours beers for... Interior, Sally's saloon, front room. Minutes later, Sally taps the keg and pours beers for patrons. They cheer.
You know who else was happy about the beer, Brian?
Siri. I tried to just roll through it, man.
No. You know me, man.
I know. I had it on mute. I thought it wasn't going to activate at all.
You know, these conglomerates, these IT conglomerates, they're always listening, Brian.
That's right. For good script ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
We like that part.
Yeah. Siri, ask him to say that line again.
I will, Siri. All right, man. You made it through it.
Yeah, one thing that I immediately wanted to change after I sent you the pages and briefly looked over them after I had already emailed them. Mm-hmm. When when Long says, you know, I brought Bao to this country for a better life, I didn't know this country would kill him instead. I think that's way too on the nose. Like I initially wanted him to say something like, you know, I brought him here for a better life. I didn't know this country would take it, right? But I wasn't sure if that was going to be too Like if people would understand what taking it was, that it was his life. And so it turned into this, I didn't know would kill him. So it's a little more accurate. Like there's no equivocation there. Like no one's going to get lost in what he's talking about. But then I thought that's just kind of like bad writing, like bad dialogue. So maybe he should just say, I brought him here for a better life. I was wrong. What do you think?
Instead, we met you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a small thing.
It's a small thing,
but it's something that just stuck out to me. So I just wanted to point that out there.
Yeah.
Or put that out there that, I'm not the happiest with that dialogue. And I feel like I want to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's a specific reason I'm not answering or responding to your question, because it's part of the larger issue I want to talk to you about. Okay. So I feel like this is probably the opposite of the last episode that we had, where I was just like, yeah, it's like I loved everything about it.
So you hate everything about these pages.
I love a lot of this again in the novelization, but I'm not sure about the movie. And this is probably going to be the René thick skin episode, and so just going to set the stage for a second there on that. I had trouble reading this time. It was the first time I really had kind of trouble, especially because the last one was probably the quickest read, and I was just like, yes, loving like every second of it.
Yeah.
And I felt like this one kind of pumped the brakes at one point, and then it screeched on the brakes at one point, where I felt like there was such a great momentum that you had begun. And so, there are definitely parts I really liked about it. But I almost feel like I should probably talk to you about the larger issues first, and then we can get to those things afterwards, because really that's like, that's all the good, there are some little things in here, but I feel like it wouldn't be fair to you if I didn't lead with the bigger points, if that's okay.
I'm always eager to discuss criticism before compliments.
Okay, cool. And I know that about you. But I guess what I'm also saying is I've been kind of typically going in chronological order through the notes, and here I won't necessarily, because I'm going to kind of go back and forth a little bit, if that's all right. So, so when you added the stuff at the beginning of Long and Everett, and I'm going to make this point now because I'm going to come back to it again later. When those two, those are kind of your grounding elements, Long and Everett, whether they're in the same scene or not. Those are the characters that I really can identify with to some extent. Like I have a really good understanding of Long and Everett, both of them together, and everyone else who comes in and interacts with them, it's kind of like on their terms. And so kind of I don't know if they're hero, anti-hero, whatever it is, but they're definitely the two primary characters. And anytime we kind of go away from them a little bit, I'm kind of eager to come back to them.
Okay.
So I really like whenever they're interacting. I felt like this this whole discussion between the two of them is probably the highlight of the entire script for me right now. Almost like it's led up to this point, with this interaction. And that's kind of, I know we talked about in the very beginning, should we reperform this? And the reason that I want to in my head is because I wanted to see how it played, because when I read it, it played a certain way. And that is that they started out with this discussion, which is, Long has this new thing, when my brother Bao was born, blah, 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 kind of setting up his reaction to his brother. He has the outcry as soon as he opens his, his eyes.
Yeah.
And I was just like, whoa, shivers, you know what I mean? It's like, wow, he's having that kind of reaction that is tying into the kill me that he had just experienced before he was knocked out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that was like, they're like powerful bookends for him emotionally. So he has that thing where he's like, just kill me. And then he wakes up, he's like, screaming out for his brother. And then he sits there for a minute, and it says a little bit about his bro. And I was just like, that was pretty strong, man. It's very powerful the way he did that. even though he knows he's not 100% sure that Everett's there, although, you know, I think he knows.
Yeah.
So I could just like see it. I could visualize this on screen. He's sitting there and he's like, when my brother Bell was born, he's like just quiet. And it's like, this is such a personal thing right now. And then when it went to the flashback, I kind of like broke out of the scene emotionally. Like, you mentioned in here that barely had enough to feed me before my father died. Then my mother died after that, which left me to basically tend after Bao. And then everything that happens afterwards is kind of what you just said, being brought to life, you know, like we're seeing it now. Mm-hmm. And I felt like with the succinct way that you put that dialogue that he says, I mean, it's only like 6 lines. I got it. I mean, I got what's disturbing him, what's really bothering him. Plus I've gotten the backstory of seeing the two of them together. So I know he's truly emotionally been impacted, been hurt by this, by his death. So that when I saw this, I was like, well, okay, I already know he's hurting. I already know he had to do this. I felt like I want to get back to the scene now, and it pulled me out. So my suggestion, and you know, again, you're the writer, but my suggestion on this is I don't think it needs the flashback. I think it's interesting. I think, again, you know, in a broader sense, if there was truly a novelization, it would be an interesting thing to put there probably. But from a momentum and a structure standpoint, I really just wanted to see what was happening between the two of them. I didn't want to go away at all from them.
Can I jump in here?
Absolutely. Take a drink.
Okay. Your opinion has a lot of merit. And of course, I'm going to consider it and give it its due. I want to see if I can convince you to keep it, though, in that, you know, we're watching a movie, and to just have a person telling you about, you know, the life of a person that we just lost, I don't know that conveys all of the emotion to the audience that that connection that these characters had as forcefully as seeing them actually suffering as children. So that's why I did it with a flashback. Just I think it's more impactful, and then B, it's visual variety. While I think if we were doing like a more of an artistic movie, you know, a foreign artistic movie, independent, I could totally see just relying on the strength of an actor, and I would be happy with that. But since the tone I'm looking for is something a little bigger budget, a little more mainstream, more, you know, Hollywood industry, I think a flashback, something that's quick. I mean, this flashback is, you know, very quick sequence. You know, I know it took me a little bit to describe all of it, but, you know, when we talk about the shack and, you know, the docks, I mean, that's like maybe 20 seconds at most. And that's probably, you know, for, you know, as like a producer who's like budgeting everything out, and he comes to me and says, René, how long is this scene? Oh, it's 20 seconds. Why are we spending $1 million to film this on docks and get a ship and all of this crap and all these extras? What are you doing?
Do you know how many setups we need for this?
Just have him perform it in the cell. Be artsy.
I think, and I know you mentioned before that you wanted to be able to show, not tell. And I agree with you. There's definitely a strength to that. So what do you think of alternatively, him doing a flashback here that basically it's happening
in the cell?
Yeah. So he's in the cell, and
in the back of the cell is a scrim, and there's childhood, Long and Bao performing.
So right before you see Long wakes and his eyes shoot open and he screams out. What if, like, right before there, he has a dream with these things that happen, and he's experiencing all of it, and he's kind of reliving his relationship with his brother, and then he wakes up screaming out for Bao, and he never, you know, breaks away the conversation between him and Everett.
You know what? That can work. That can work. Okay, so we're seeing the bodies on the train platform. Father Mendoza is giving last rites, or I'm sorry, Espinoza. It might be Father Mendoza now, just because it rolls off the tongue a little better.
Who knows?
Okay.
I'll make a note.
Then we go to black, and then it comes up. We don't even need to put a title card or anything, right? It just comes up. We just see, Chinese children. We don't even know their names, right?
Right.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting. Maybe, maybe it's Child Bao who is, he is trying to help with earn money. Like he's lifting some, rocks or something, right? I don't know what they do for money as children in China in 1900s, whatever it was.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, 1800s. But yeah, and his Child Bao is in danger, and Long is trying to save him.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of ties into the whole what just happened 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Okay. I like that. And then he can talk. Okay. Good. Well, there you go. That's solved, Brian.
Cool.
But I'm putting the handkerchiefs back in now. Just a tit for tat thing. Just balance it out.
I will trade handkerchiefs for that, definitely. As long as I get Father Mendoza in there later.
Yes. You got it.
All right. Yeah, so my other notes don't really apply because we've kind of already talked about all this.
How about this? Just so that it's I like the idea of him just talking to the darkness, and as an audience, you don't know who the hell he's talking to.
Yeah.
How about when Bao wakes up and he looks around, we see Everett light up, but they still don't say anything to each other. And that's why Long feels like, let me explain. Like he feels this innate need to explain why he just reacted this way.
Well, Everett's aware that's his brother.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is now, we, if I were waking up from a feverish dream, right, and screaming someone's name.
Yeah.
And then, I thought I was alone, but then when I turn, there's someone there just staring at me, seeing this happen. I think I would want, even if it's my enemy, right, I think I would want to explain, what just happened here.
Okay, I think logically you're making sense, but I think cinematically, the way you wrote it, this is so cool.
Okay. I know it's cool because we're God, right? We're reading this and we know that Everett is in the room.
Right.
An audience member watching this are they going to feel like, what the hell? Who the hell is he talking to? There's no one in this room.
Such a cool reveal, though, dude.
Are you sure it's going to make sense?
Cool reveal. Okay. I think it read so clearly.
All right.
I think any director who sees that's going to be like, yeah, I got it. I know exactly how I want to film it. It's such a cool reveal. I don't think I'd change it, man. I mean, you can, but I think this is so strong, like the way you did that part.
Okay, let's leave it alone then.
Okay. All right, so let's go to. God, I really don't know how to frame this for you.
Uh-oh. It's just bad.
There's nothing bad about it. Again, to me, it's about. I'm always trying to put myself in the mind of, number one, the reader, who's just experiencing this for the first time, and secondarily, a viewer. What do I want to see? And how am I going to experience this? And I feel like anytime we go away, like I said, from the main characters, I don't mind it as long as it's brief, and we're all circling back to them.
Yeah.
And on 40 through the new pages, so 45, I guess it is.
Yeah.
We're gone from both of them, and I know we're setting up the rest of the story.
Yeah.
I know we're setting up the next part, but I guess I would caution you by saying, okay, we're probably 5 minutes away from them so far, and I'm guessing that we're going to be going away from them even further because, we haven't gone to
the fort. The fort's a big thing.
We haven't gone to the fort, and it happens every so often in movies, and I'm like, what's going on, man? Are we going to get back to the story at some point?
See, this is exactly what I cautioned about last episode.
The non-montage version.
Or yeah, and I wrote about this in the blog actually. Because it's not a montage, now we're experiencing all these other characters. I mean, we're going to go to a whole new scene with the army, right? Like a whole new setting. And that's going to be an extended thing because we have to learn about the monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. This was... I worried about this.
Yeah.
I think given that I've written this far as a non-montage, I think we're stuck.
I still like the idea of it being a non-montage. However, and you know me, I don't try and just come with an issue. I try and come up with some sort of idea.
Instead of a montage, it's a non-tage. Oh, yes, you love it.
No.
Non-tage, Brian.
Non-tage is not going on the thumbnail.
Non-tage.
Unless you're getting, painbow or something silly like that. You're not getting
it's a non-tage. Dude, I'm like Shakespeare, bro. I'm like Shakespeare. I'm just making up these new words.
Make it up as you go.
400 years from now, people are going to quote it in their essays.
It's right. Well, where's the first band that's going to be named Non-Taj? You know what I mean? I was looking for new words. Get that domain right now, dude.
Get the what? Oh,
that
yeah,
domain
exactly.
Before we publish it.
Totally. All right. Okay. So
all I could get was nontaj.net. This sucks.
I know. All right, look, Brian, I get it. I'm hoping that because we've already established the majority of these characters, from Petrov to Claudette and Doc Murphy, the Prospectors, that the audience is just going to be like, okay, you know what? We need a little bit of breathing room from the high tension, square off here between the two main characters. It's okay to kind of breathe and see what's going on with these other characters, the supporting cast.
Right.
Now, the concern is because at this point, no one knows that this is a zombie movie, right? I'm looking at it as like the guy who walks to the theater or walks up to the theater. I don't know what I want to watch. Ooh, what's this? Epitaph? Western? Okay. Looks at the poster. Oh, it's cowboys and Indians. Oh, I love Westerns. Is it like Unforgiven? Okay. Then they watch it. So here we are at 40 minutes, and now it's like, oh, meteorite and freaking green goo on his hand. What the hell is happening here? Right? So this is where the audience either goes with it or they don't, or they walk out.
Yeah. Yes. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And look, I'm okay with that. I think at this point, this is a gut check, right? We either say, the concept is strong enough to keep writing it the way it is, or we just move on to the next project.
Okay, that's awesome, man. It's so funny you say that. Okay, 1 minute story. Stop me if you've heard this. Okay,
please.
So I was in high school, and I was in Art 3 at the time. So it was the advanced art class, right? And I really enjoyed it. It was just it was like a break that I got good grades for. I just got to just sit down for an hour each day, and we were tasked that week with drawing portraits. So everyone had looked at magazines, and you just pick something you like, and you just draw a nice portrait of it. And I did one where it was just I spent probably about a full day just drawing this beautiful face of this model, this female model, and at the end of the day, I just kind of looked at it. I mean, all the details looked awesome, but something just seemed off.
Yeah. Totally.
Like I just wasn't happy with it. And I just looked at my buddy. I'm like, nah, it's got to go. And then the guy sitting next to me, he was just sitting there struggling. He's like, dude, do you mind if like I take that? I'm like, yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah.
So he put his name on it, and I started over again, and I was super happy with what I did. He was happy with not having to do it and having something that, you know, he got an A on.
Yeah.
Everyone won.
There you
But
go.
the point is that I'm never afraid to start over again, and either. But I appreciate that about you. I don't think it's nearly where we're at right now.
No, and I don't think so either. All I'm saying is, actually, this is not exactly what I just said, but the spirit is the same.
Yeah.
And that is, we knew that this was coming, and we knew that this was the hump that we couldn't disguise within the movie.
Right.
And unless you have a better idea, I say we proceed. We see how long, how many pages this eats up, establishing the army, establishing the sickness, and then we revisit this conversation and say, okay, where can we tighten this up? Because I feel like we've lost the dramatic impact, which is the story between these two characters. I think that what we're the way I'm seeing this now as I write is that I'm telling two movies. One is, establishing this hatred that always was, right, between these two characters, within the context of this town where something crazy is going to happen, and we're approaching pretty much the middle of the movie where once I've shown everybody who gets sick and how the illness is going to be transmitted because it's in the water. Mortimer is going to wipe down the bodies with this water. So it might be the water that causes the bodies to reanimate. I don't know. But so to close off this half, the soldiers are going to end up at the fort. They're going to show that the soldier has died in transit. And then the last shot is the Miss Stapleton, who's the school marm. She'll be drinking the water before bed, like while she's reading a book or something. And then the next morning, we see the aftermath where, oh, man, these people are like going crazy and they're biting people, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that begins the other movie I'm going to tell.
Right.
And I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing. Now, I don't know if... See, it's hard to tell without having more feedback from people who watch this and read the script, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell if I know where your mind is. Like, you like what I've written for these two characters. Will other readers feel the same way, where they feel like, I only want to know about these guys. This is where the good stuff is. I don't really care about the zombie stuff. If that's the case, then some tweaking has to be done. I know I'm rambling here, but I'm kind of like working on the fly now.
Yeah, and I think as long as we keep them involved somehow together, which they're going to be because he's going to release them from jail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to create the dramatic tension throughout the rest of the movie, which I think is, I really have no problem with the direction of it. I'm just saying, first and foremost, if we're going to go away from them, let's not go away from them long. And secondarily, and this is, you mentioned that there's a place where they have to kind of accept the premise or not, right? And unless I had a different idea. So I agree with you on both counts that that there's definitely a point where I hit and I was just like, okay, this is where I might be in the hands of a director that's not any good. I'm probably going to bounce from this movie at this point. And I can tell you exactly where it is. And I do have a suggestion, but you may not like it because it's going to remove a little bit of the ambiguity. So the place where I really kind of had problems was when the green meteorite hit, and I get Bill and Bud confused. One of them, Bill, I think, is the one who's kind of going a little bit more insane. He's got the dog bite, right?
That's Bud.
Is that Bud?
Yeah.
I get him confused.
No, it's fine.
so Bud is like snatching at the meteorite, and I'm like, what? why would anyone want to touch something coming from the sky, even if has no idea of science?
Right. Yeah.
Just because naturally it's like, that thing is either going to be really hot or really cold. I wouldn't touch it. Then he touches it, and then he gets gets the green goop, and the green goop has supernatural type of things happening right there and then, which tells me there's something, you know, I don't know if now we have an alien influence at this point. You know what I mean? Like, is there, because we've all seen these movies,
right?
Is there something that's now infecting him, like that's another living organism that's draining him and doing something, or whatnot? But I felt like I was in this Western that was really grounded, and all of a sudden I was watching a science fiction movie. That and it just took me right out of it. And then he starts cradling the thing, so I was like, huh? You know what I mean? And I guess what I would say, and this would be the part to consider, since we have multiple events taking place.
Yeah.
We have the slaughter of Petrov, right? Did I read Petrov's thing?
Yeah.
I did. I thought there was something I was messing up on that earlier. Anyway, when I was test reading it. We have Petrov, and we have
Petrified, I think, is Petrified Petrov is where you may have bumped up on something.
Did I?
I don't know. I'm asking because you said
it was definitely an alliterative type of thing. I messed up on when I was testing myself.
Oh, okay. Well, you didn't mess up at all, and I'm just saying. I think if you did anywhere before this,
it was probably there.
Yeah, because you said it so deliberately.
Yeah, I'm not going to mess it up when I read it live. Anyway, so we have that happening, you know, with the water going in, but the soldier who was sick before and is going to be, you know, going back to the camp. We don't know. Timeline wise, we don't know if this was already existing. So we already have some ambiguity there.
Right.
But you won't like my recommendation. My recommendation would be to remove the meteorite altogether, because I think we have enough that could be the cause of this, and it's not going to take anyone out. No one's going to bump against it because it's going to happen a little bit more organically. Pardon the pun. It's going to happen a little more organically because there's not this one thing that people are going to necessarily say, oh, okay, unless they may see the, you know, the water going through.
Yeah.
But if they think about it and they say, wait a second, the soldier, that has nothing to do with the soldier. He didn't.
No, I get that. I hear you. I hear what you're saying, Brian. And it is a struggle, or rather a challenge that I keep in mind to explain to, you know, that the people who are infected, the people who become zombies, that they all have a chance to be affected by the different things. So one thing and thank you for reminding me, one thing I forgot to include here is that as the green meteorite flies over Claudette and Doc and they go inside, I should write a little something where, you know, green dust, you know, flitters down, and, you know, townspeople are like, oh, what's this, right? Dancing in it, I don't know, like, oh, catching it in their hands, right? Just to show, like, oh, okay, so this might be the cause of something. And, you know, this is why Mortimer has to clean the bodies. I don't even know if that's a practice they did back then, but he's got to clean the bodies with the infected water from Petrov's stuff, you know, so that the bodies could be reanimated by that.
I don't know if they did it either. I thought it was more just like, I don't know if it was a rite of some sort or just, you know, a practice, which I thought was, well, I didn't bump on that at all. I thought that was actually kind of a neat idea.
Okay.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's based in reality, but I thought it was cool. Like maybe the relatives will want to see it, and they of course want to clean up their, you know, their kin or whatever.
Yeah.
So I thought there was logic to it.
Okay. Okay. So the meteorite is a step too far for you, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is it the visual, like, because it's this green glowing thing and it's like they're touching it and all of that, right? It's too much because, you know,
it just took me out of, like, everything could happen before then. I could see it. You know what I mean? But then when the way this guy was reacting, I couldn't buy any of it. I couldn't buy him touching it. I couldn't buy what happened afterwards, the alien thing that was going on. And I couldn't buy him hugging it afterwards and then them fighting over it. I was like, I just didn't understand. I mean, I understand. I'm guessing at least that what we're trying to convey is that they're both kind of infected already. So this is how they're reacting. They're not necessarily logical. They're just reacting now more animalistically or something, and they're in the process of turning, I'm guessing. But the way I read it just came off as weird. So I was trying to think, okay, if I'm trying to look at this objectively and remove myself from this weekly thing we're doing, what would I do? How would it play without the Prospectors, without that whole storyline? Because I was actually drawing out, like, as I was really giving this a lot of thought. I was kind of, nervous about this conversation, to be honest, because I didn't want to have to give you this news. But I was drawing out like all of the different characters we've got so far, and we're still introducing people here shortly. We just introduced some brand new people at the end, and we have the people at the camp we have to introduce. I'm guessing that's everyone. But I'm like, we're still like 40 pages introducing new characters. And it feels like it's taking a while to get there. Do we need to, what would happen if we cut the meteorite, cut the Prospectors all together, and still focused on the fort, still focused on the other stuff that's going on with Petrov going down and whatnot. So just trying to be kind of systematically objective about it.
Okay. So let me just say that the Prospectors are, I don't know, I mean, I'm not necessarily married to them, but they are taking up space in my mind for the rest of the script. So, they're not integral, but they are a piece that I would have to fill if I removed them. So that's part of my resistance. Now, let's talk about the structure of the movie. Now, in an earlier podcast, I did say that my concern of introducing characters, later in the movie may be a problem as far as the audience experience goes. I still stand by that. Now, if I think one of the concerns is that, as a reader, is that these characters have names. Like, if I had just, instead of calling her Miss Stapleton, if I had just called her School Marm, we would know, okay, not a very consequential character. She's probably going to die in the next few pages. Or if I, instead of calling Mortimer Caron, right, yeah. I could just call him Undertaker. Okay, he's just a guy who does a job. He's going to die too, right? Movies are full of these characters who we don't see until later, and they have one line, secretary, right. Bum,
right.
Hot waitress number 4, right?
Well, it's like her.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of A-listers start off as hot waitress number 4. Look at Mel Gibson. Anyway, so I think that's one of the concerns, is that, you're looking at these names and you're thinking, oh, that's one more name I have to remember for the rest of the script and see if, like, does their little mini story play out? Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the issues with what we're doing and the way we're doing it, because, this is a work in progress. And while I can see the whole thing, essentially, in my mind, you're just getting these, like, slices, and I think the fear of having to remember this character and everything about them when you have no idea if they're going to be, like, a big character or if they're just going to be a small character, you don't know that. So I say, I'm gonna take all of this into consideration, of course, but let's marinate on it a couple more episodes, like maybe another 20 pages, just to see how we feel about it before we start chopping it. Now, going back to the meteor thing, I hear what you're saying. It does feel like a wholly separate movie, but then again, a zombie movie is a wholly separate movie from the Western, right? And I think this is just where our movie viewing repertoire diverges, where I've seen a lot of, like, schlock, like I think I've seen every Return of the Night of the Living Dead, every version of that, like 1 through 4, I think it is, or maybe it's 5, I can't be sure. Like, I've seen them all multiple times, and I can feel like, yeah, zombie fans are totally going to get this whole meteor thing, and it's going to be fine. So I'm not I don't feel weird about it being this other movie in a Western since I'm already doing another movie in a Western. So that's where I'm coming from on this.
Right. And I guess in this vantage point, I'm trying to stand in for the broader audience who doesn't necessarily know that. And as a Western goes, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm enjoying the interaction. It's not like there's not the cliche Western stuff that I'm used to seeing. It's just there, but it's, the interactions seem genuine. And I just feel like this kind of breaks from that. And I like the idea of it just integrating the two ideas. And I think you've got so much there already that you don't need this on top of it. I think that whatever happens, even if it's unexplained at all, it's just like, wow, it's cool, and it kind of creeps up on you rather than, I feel like we're getting slapped on the face with this green thing versus the soldier who is visiting the dock and just kind of giving that look, and then he backs off. You know what I mean? I was like, whoa, that is so cool. I mean, that to me, that was like, and I don't know what visual was in your mind when you did that, but that thing when in one of the Lord of the Rings, it may have been the third one, when who's the older Hobbit, the one who's telling the story?
Sam?
No, the old one, the Frodo's
Bilbo
uncle.
Oh yeah, when he gets the CGI face.
Yeah,
when he sees the ring. Ah!
Exactly. That's kind of what hit me. I was like, oh, I had that like visual, where it's like strong, but then it was like gone, and I remember seeing that in the theater, like, whoa, what the, you know what I mean? You just don't have that time to react. And it was just like a subtle thing. Like there's something coming. I don't know exactly what it is, well, now I know what it is because there's a big green thing that's going to, impact the rest of the movie.
Okay. Let's back up here. So I think one thing that's missing from your understanding of the green thing is that these guys are struggling to find precious metal in the way that Old Man Prophet has found silver. Mm-hmm. So these guys, they're toiling away, desperate to make a profit here. The meteor is meant to be, to them, they see it as a precious metal. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now, I know that the visual of it being a watermelon-sized glowing rock probably is disparate from seeing a silver ore, but I think that can be changed. I mean, maybe instead of it being a green watermelon, it smashes into the mine and breaks into little chunks that is scintillating green instead of like pulsating green. Mm-hmm. And they start touching it and like scooping it together, not realizing that they are becoming infected by it. Mm-hmm. They just think, oh yeah, hey, we're rich. I did want the meteorite to be the cause of Bill's issue. Bud has already been bitten by the dog. So, he's scratching at it. He's already aggressive. Maybe it's rabies. Maybe it's something worse. Mm-hmm. And Bill, who is a little more meek in the face of Bud's, rabies aggression, once he touches the green ore, now it has brought out the worst in him. And so now these two guys who were once really good friends are just going at it, driven by their own, I don't want to call it greed necessarily, but let's just use that, driven by their own greed. But yet there's still those vestiges of friendship, which is why as a team, they're just now these, big jerks.
Yeah.
Would that make it any better, though, if we just had the meteorite smash into the wall, and now the wall, it looks like it's covered in a sheen of green ore, where these guys think, oh, new precious metal, all right.
Yeah. I mean, it has I think that's fine.
Would it feel less sci-fi? That's what I'm trying to address your sci-fi issue here which you don't like.
The most sci-fi part was not that. I mean, I didn't like that they touched it.
Okay.
Now, and that definitely solves that problem. And I certainly didn't like what happened afterwards when it starts to like seep into the body. It's almost like I could see like they're picking it up and they don't realize that parts of things are like seeping into their body unbeknownst to them or something. You know what I mean? So it's not like so in their face. I have no problem with that happening. I just don't want them seeing it happen, going, whatever, and then we're just going to go on and fight with each other and carry it over to the bar. You know what I mean? But if something, maybe the audience sees it or sees something happen.
So the whole thing with the bar, FYI, is to, it's a delivery mechanism to the greater population of the town. Because he spits
the green
on
spit, yeah, I got that.
And this is where I'm tying back into the whole some zombie spit, and you kind of mentioned the whole spittoon thing in episode 1.
Right.
So they go, okay, yeah, these guys are all become spitting zombies because of this issue. Because of Bill and his bad habit. So here's a 30-second story. I'm pretty sure I haven't told you this one. Had a friend who was a heavy smoker, and we were in our early 20s, and he always wanted to quit smoking. So one day he comes to me and he's like, René, I quit smoking. I'm like, oh man, good for you. Cold turkey. He tells me. Then he whips out his chewing tobacco, right? Packing it. And so, we'd always hang out at my apartment, and he would have like a Gatorade bottle or something like that, and that would be the thing he spat in.
Nasty.
And then when he left, he would just leave it in my bedroom, like no cover, nothing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my buddy did it in the can, like a 12-ounce can.
There you go.
So at least you wouldn't see it, but you can still smell it and
Yeah.
I quit smoking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cold turkey.
Cold turkey.
The strength of character, buddy.
That's it. Okay, so let's get back to the meteor thing. Because I at this point, it's easier for me to just keep going with it than to excise it. Just a little bit, though. Like, I'm like 51% along in the journey with these characters, because I can kind of like map it out in my mind what's going to happen to them. But, it's not going to kill the script or me to remove it. But at this point, I just want to argue for it. So what changes could I make to this scene that would be okay with you? If we get rid of the glowing thing, if it just looks like ore, and if Bill doesn't notice it affecting him, if Bill doesn't notice it affects him, but the audience does, would that make this okay for you?
To me, that totally makes it better.
Well, I know it makes it better, but does it make it enough that you would be willing to keep it?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I didn't really understand, and I was just trying to look at it from a dialogue standpoint, is their their behavior towards each other.
Yeah.
I know you're saying they're supposed to be changing somewhat, and again, sorry, Bill or Bud, one of them is going to be affected a little bit differently now that he's been exposed to this meteorite. It just felt like they took a turn that I just didn't understand. Where they're, first off, the hugging thing, I was like, I don't understand why someone would do that. I gotta find it. I'm sorry.
Where he cradles it?
Yeah. He takes off his shirt and starts hugging on it or something.
Yeah, he swaddles it like a baby. He finds it that precious, Brian. We're looking at page 43-ish.
Yeah, for me, it's a little bit different. I'm going to be rich. Here it is, yes. I wrote, okay, you lost me here. So when he takes off his shirt and starts swaddling the meteorite like a baby.
Yeah, because it's precious to him.
Oh, man. I don't care what year it is. I don't see anyone doing that to something that comes out of the sky. Maybe protecting it, bundling it up so no one else can see it because it's precious, because it's worth money.
Well, how about this? What if I had written and he wraps the meteorite protectively?
Yeah.
Okay. So
and hides it in the wheelbarrow or something, so.
What if I told you that if I'd written it that way, it would have added another line? And so I said, wow, what is the least amount of words I can use to describe this? Oh, swaddles like a baby. Perfect.
Yeah, that's not the way I read it. I read it as
Okay.
like, I'm in love. I'm drawn to this thing, and it is now infecting me, and I'm becoming one with it. And is there an alien thing that we didn't talk about?
Yes, this is a little bit of sci-fi going on here.
Yeah, I think genre busting is good, but I think with the Western and the horror, you're already there. I think adding the sci-fi element is a little bit. This just feels like a little too much. It just feels unnecessary because you've got like such a cool story you're telling.
All right, man. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I just think that there is a pedigree for zombie movies that come from things from outer space landing on Earth. You know, think of like Night of the Comet, right? Not that I've seen it. Not that I even know it's a zombie movie. But it sounds like a zombie movie, and it sounds like it helps my argument. So I'm going to use it. Night of the Comet, Brian. It's
right,
like
but
that.
You said you wanted a broader audience. You didn't want to just get people who like zombie movies, right? You want me to go see this movie, right?
Of course, but you're already 40 minutes in. You're trapped. You're invested. You're like, oh, I'm already 40 minutes in of this great Western. Okay, the meteor thing. I know it's going to get back to the Western, so...
At this point, if I'm literally taken out of the movie and just start shaking my head, then it's going to take a lot to get me back in. You know what I mean?
All right. Okay.
Versus,
well, look,
I want to be manipulated.
I get. Hey, it's slow boil. I know you're a frog. Boil the frog. I get it. Here's the thing, Brian. I think this is all moot at this point because we've already, assuaged your concern of the sci-fi aspect through these little descriptive changes. Right?
Yeah. You were asking me if it works then, and I said that I just had a problem with kind of how they were interacting. I just didn't understand it. That's the other point I was just trying to make. It's a much on a scale of the issues I have. That's way lower and more easily managed. I just didn't really understand it. That's all I'm saying, because we haven't really established them. And you said that earlier they were a little bit more friendly towards each other. I just didn't get that.
Oh, totally. Because I didn't include those pages here because it's just the quick exchange in Sally's, right?
Yeah.
So I just beefed up their dialogue just a little bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully their friendship is going to come through. And, now that they're getting infected by whatever, it's changing. It's bringing out the worst in them.
Right.
And I don't know if that's, a concept that's going to be a through line through this, like the people who become infected pre-zombie, pre-death and rising as a zombie, if it brings out the worst in them, a la, something like George Romero's The Crazies, right? Something like that. We'll see. I'm just trying to add a little bit more reason to the rhyme.
Okay. I really think this is probably more of a minor point, and I think that, like what you were saying earlier, we could probably revisit that later.
Okay.
It's not huge to me.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
All right, so the next huge thing, no. Let me go through my more usual type of look at the script now, if you don't mind, because I've kind of talked about the big stuff now.
Yeah.
Still friends. Look at that, internet. See? People can disagree. It's okay. Okay.
There are other hosts, Brian.
But none that write, René. Oh, you mean me?
Oh.
All right. I have a great word here. I don't know what that means. So let's move on to this. And talked about that. Hit the microphones.
Hey, rub it. Hey, Brian, I have while you're searching, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Would you mind making all of your notes in red ink?
Okay. Not this time, but going forward.
No, I get it. Yeah. Here's what I think would look cool is when I upload or update the blog posts with this video.
Yeah.
I could also update the PDF with your notes.
Okay.
And that way we get that whole, editor with the red pen feel to it. I just have to find a way to. What's that?
Every single week that I write this, my handwriting becomes more and more naturalistic.
Oh, yeah, I can tell.
So I'm like, well, he's not complaining yet, so I guess he can still read it.
Yeah, you've been hanging out with doctors too much, man. I'm telling you.
This is getting it's getting bad. I'm like, well, okay. Yeah. I'm writing for real now. This is the real thing. I'm not taking my time anymore.
Oh, that's fine, bro. Don't worry about it.
It's visceral writing, though.
Yeah, I get it.
It's like in the moment I'm writing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Red starting next time.
Okay.
So the little point between Doc Murphy and Claudette after Petrov says this thing.
Yeah.
That was a funny little reveal, that there's some sort of backstory between Petrov and Claudette.
Yeah, I'm building that.
I like that. I like that little hint. He's like, what? And she's like, look at me here.
Do you want to know what's going on here?
No, I want to be an audience member on this one. Let me enjoy it.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have a big conversation later. So Renee,
I don't know. I don't understand this whole Claudette thing,
Petrov thing. What's going on?
Get over it.
Took me out of the movie.
Come on now. She turns into a green alien. Starts.
You added a rom-com to this whole thing. It's weird. I don't get it. I'm adding every genre, Brian.
That's right. So at the bottom of my page 40, it says after Claudette and Doc Murphy have their little discussion, it says he goes inside. Claudette follows disappointed.
Yeah.
I wrote, I think that she could have a look that conveys, and you wonder why Petrov said that and stays outside instead, kind of looking after him as he's riding away rather than just following Doc Murphy in.
Okay.
Just these are all much smaller notes than I said. I'm gonna skip through that. We've already talked about most of that stuff. And so the audience is aware some of the stuff is so minor I'm not even saying it. And we've talked this part to death. And that to death. So the point where because most of my stuff is really surrounding my argument for the big changes.
Should swaddle be the word of the podcast, Brian? Swaddle. No?
So when Petrov reveals that he has no accent, I love that part too. I felt like that's tying into the whole thing with Claudette. Don't tell me if it is, but I felt like it. I'm like, oh, I love it. I love it. There's something going on here. Maybe he's not who he says he is, or maybe there's, something cool there. But anyway, I thought that was a nice little reveal. So, pardon me if you mentioned this in the previous pages, because it kind of has left my memory if you did. But I'm trying to understand what happened between the Indians and Petrov, why they just so aggressively destroyed him and dumped his wares into the river. Because it felt like there's something there as to a reason. I understand maybe killing the white guy, but I didn't understand, and we're going to dump all this stuff into the river. Unless was there a previous interaction of some sort, or had he said something that
zero?
Okay.
The only thing I've done is I've established that there are these violent, aggressive Indian bandits that are attacking people just on the plains, and Long and Bao see an attack happening in progress in the opening montage. Yeah. That's it. And then, of course, Carl has his family killed. Yeah.
Right. And as he's talking to
Stan. Yeah.
Or after, before when he's talking to Stan. So it just felt very personal when they did that. Like, he said his thing. There's like, put the knife in. And then they did the thing with the wagon. I don't know. Maybe I was just trying to read too much into it.
Sorry, man. Nothing there. Just this is what they do.
Okay. Is Petrov going to come back?
No,
he's not.
This is it. Attention. He's dead.
He's done.
I mean, he'll be mentioned, but this is as a character, he's dead. I mean, and he can't even come back as a zombie. His brain has been stabbed. So.
Oh, is that a thing I don't know?
Oh, that's how zombies. I mean, that's general zombie lore. Is that shot enough damage to the brain and That's how you kill a zombie.
Bummer. I was hoping he'd go into the water and then he'd be part of the whole thing, but
sorry, bro.
I kind of want to see what happened to him. All right, so as far as Mortimer goes, so you've mentioned the Undertaker earlier in some previous pages.
Yeah.
This is the first time we're getting him named.
Right. I removed him earlier. So his shop is still there. But in order to, prevent reader confusion as to why he's mentioned earlier but not given a name or described and all of that. And the reason that didn't happen is because I didn't want to add more lines.
I see.
Right.
Okay, so this is the first time he's getting named.
Yes.
Okay.
And the first time he's actually seen, too. Now, that this is one of the changes I made when, I was making all those crazy changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I kind of bumped on his name. Like, how do I say that last name? How do you say the last name again?
Charon.
Is there a
Mortimer
reason for that?
What?
Is there a story behind the name?
Charon is the name of the boatman, I think in Greek mythology, who would take you, across the river Styx. Yeah. And you had to pay him coins to get ferried across. So this ties into the people, like, the old days when people put coins on people's eyes. Those were coins for Charon so that he would take your soul. And hey, people watching, if I've gotten my mythology wrong, please correct me. I don't want to sound like an idiot beyond this episode, so let me know. But anyway, let me just continue with my ignorance. Coins over the eyes, coins for Charon.
That's cool. When I was reading it, I read it, initially like that's not right, Brian. That can't be right at all. I read it as Chiron, the thing that goes across the bottom of the screen.
And in the Middle East, I should just have him like spouting off like with the weather.
Random news story.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, I kind of that's it. I mean, most of my stuff was on because we were talking about the two major editions, and that's where pretty much all of my comments were, man. So, yeah, that's all I have for today.
Good. No, great. That wasn't bad at all, Brian. Like that wasn't a big talk for me at all. I mean, as a writer, I think I have to take risks. And I think of everything I've written so far, that is probably the biggest risk. And I totally agree. I can see what you're saying. I can totally see it from your perspective because it is so visually impactful. This green thing, and it really it harkens to everything we know about sci-fi. And now it doesn't feel like a Western anymore. I never saw Cowboys versus Aliens. I can only imagine there must have been a similar feeling for a lot of audiences, which is why the movie didn't do very well. Yeah. Did you see that movie?
Oh, no.
Okay.
The trailer alone scared the hell out of me.
Okay.
Totally, it looks so bizarre.
Well, there you go. So,
but I feel like there's a really nice mesh between the Western and the zombie. I think it's going to go really well together.
Yeah, I think it's going to turn out okay. I think it will, especially once we get past all of these, like, what's happening is that I've established all these loose ends in the first half, and they're all going to tie in the middle, and then come back out again to be tied in at the end again. Let me just hit my microphone while I gesticulate. So, I guess what I'm asking, and I hope this doesn't sound like the plea of a weak writer, but I'm just asking that you hang in there for maybe another 20 pages just to see how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And once we bust the 120 page limit, and I'm at 130 or whatever, then we can talk about, okay, meteorites got to go. Bill and Bud, they don't exist. Who, like, I
hardly knew you.
It'll just be like one guy who gets all the symptoms. He gets bitten by a dog. He drinks something bad, and then he'll fall over into the stream.
No, man, Bill and Bud just get the, they get the short. You know what I mean? That's kind of the digital prequel to the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
They get their own little 5 minute, Moviette.
Sure, the little comic book that gets, included in the DVD or Blu-ray.
The whole thing gets told from Bill's perspective. I remember it.
Dude, you know what would be awesome? If I had my own production company and studio.
Yeah.
Film everything and then decide what to cut, and those are all like promo videos.
Right. They never even actually appear in the movie necessarily, but
yeah.
they set the...
And so you're setting up the movie. You're telling the audience what the movie is about without showing them the movie.
That'd be great.
That's how I want to do all of my promos.
That'd be great.
For every movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I would love that.
And then people watch the movie like, where's that scene? What the heck? It's not in the movie.
And they do the side-by-side YouTube videos.
Right.
See? It's not there.
Yeah.
See? Exactly. As intended.
See? Yeah. And it just keeps building buzz, man. Watch it again to find out what else is different. Bring a friend.
And a pencil.
And a pencil.
44 minutes, I saw this. Anyway.
All right then, Brian. It looks like that is it. Is there anything else I need to add? Anything else you want to add?
I think I have said plenty today.
Okay, great. You know what? I'm a performer at heart. I thought the performance today went much better, despite a couple of flubs on my part. But
it's fantastic.
I thought it was pretty good.
I loved how you owned the doc this time. It is what it is, man. Got him. He's ingrained and it's fine. It's believable. But it's funny when I'm reading this, when I'm reading as an attribute to you, when I'm reading the script now and I read Long and Everett, I mean, those voices are very, very prominent. Like you've nailed them and you've really laid out kind of how they're supposed to be read and how the flow is supposed to or how the dialogue is supposed to flow. So I totally can get the cadence as I'm reading each of them now.
Sweet.
So it's very, very strong. So I think that's why, and maybe one of the reasons I'm so drawn to those two characters too. Like they're so well defined, both on the page and in the audio version. Yeah.
Well, hey man, I appreciate that. Just don't get too attached because hey, hopefully once we have enough for an animatic, get professional voice actors, and the performances are just going to explode.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, well, with that said, everyone watching, I encourage you to visit our website, and that is letswritethismovie.com, where you can look at new pages every week. You just have to click an episode. I'm doing that now. And you'll see this PDF viewer with the new pages for the week. Read them, leave your comments in the field below, or leave your comments here on our YouTube channel. We could use the feedback and the engagement.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that was quite an episode. I had a good time. Brian, how did you feel?
Hey, man, I'm just glad we're going on to the next one. I'm glad that I get to stick around for this little ride.
You are in for a penny, in for a pound, Brian.
All right, buddy.
I'll see you next week.
See you guys.
All right, since it doesn't seem like we have any banter, anything good anyway.
What's that mean?
I'm just saying, typically we start these shows off with a little bit of warm up. Hey, man, what's going on? Like, how are things with this doctor and all of that, right? Just like random stuff. And then we do the show. And then I use the random stuff as like an outtake.
Maybe I'm learning.
Oh, is that?
Don't give him material.
Okay. All right.
Nothing's going on, Renee. Nothing interesting.
Fantastic. Oh, I stopped recording. Go ahead, Brian. Just let me know what's going on.
What happened with your hat?
Two can play this game.
That's right. He who wields the edit button.